Hi there, this is Solitary Rowan from Solitary Rowan Films, and welcome to another episode of my director collections. Today, the one, the only Martin Scorsese, probably one of the most popular filmmakers of all time, and certainly used to be one of the best. If you're not familiar, me and Marty go back a long way. I used to love him. For a long time he was my second favourite filmmaker of all time, behind Akira Kurosawa. But that was before he met Leonardo DiCaprio, and he has since fallen quite away. I've said often that I think his work in the 21st century as someone who helps with restoration of films, who helps with spotlighting forgotten films or lost films or films from around the world, is far more valuable than his actual output as a director. Up to a point I had seen every Scorsese film, but that point has long gone. I haven't seen his remake of Silence. I haven't seen Wolf of Wall Street or The Aviator. I can't get past excuse me, been talking too much. I can't get past the first 20 minutes of The Irishman. I've probably forgot some other ones. Obviously I've seen, as I said, probably all of his films up to The Gangs of New York, but I don't have them all. So things like Boxcar Bertha I've seen, but I don't have a copy of. So I'm just going to go through my collection. Obviously I still think Scorsese in the history of cinema is one of the best filmmakers of all time, but certainly in the last 27 years or something like that, I would say his legacy, he's always needed good writers, and I think he hasn't really had good writers the last 25 years. And again, very much like other people we could mention, I don't think there's people around him saying, yeah, you could cut that, or this is too long, or there's no need for that. Because he is, quite rightly, worshipped to an extent. But the problem is when people are worshipped, they don't necessarily make their best decisions. So again, I'm just going to go through what I have. So this one actually recently got a 4K. I'm not even sure there was a Blu-ray, but it went straight to 4K. One of his kind of underappreciated ones, certainly if you think about the last 25 years, this would actually rank probably higher than everything he's done in the last 25 years. This is Bringing Out the Dead. This is a DVD, but as I said, Paramount I think just released a 4K, last year, which I might end up getting if I can find it cheap. Nicolas Cage as an ambulance driver. It's funny, when Scorsese first showed Michael Powell Taxi Driver, Powell said there's a bit too much red in it, and obviously coming from Michael Powell, that is kind of funny. But Bringing Out the Dead goes even redder. I don't know whether that was Scorsese making more of a point, but it's certainly very red. Patricia Arquette, Ving Rhames, John Goodman. Again, is it classic Scorsese? Is it his best work? No, but certainly compared to the last 25 years, I think it deserves to be more appreciated than it is. Now, a lot of his classics I do kind of feel haven't aged as well, or maybe, as a young man, or obviously there's a group of people in the world, especially on YouTube, of film bros. When they do collection videos, you can pretty much guess what films they're going to have. And a lot of the early Scorsese films are film bro films, but they're still very good. But I don't think a lot of them have aged as well as some of them, and I don't think Raging Bull has aged that well. Again, still a very good film, but I just don't like it as much as I used to, as you can see, because I've just got it on a disc. Now, one that I have on a special edition handwritten DVD is Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And obviously Scorsese and women, he is one of those, pretty much the whole, I don't want to lump them together, but the whole kind of brat pack of Lucas and Scorsese and Spielberg and De Palma. Women are a bit of a mystery to them, which is fair enough. Women are a bit of a mystery to me as well. But Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore is, again, if you compare his whole body of work, it's now one of his best films with Chris Christopherson and Ellen Burstyn. Now, some filmmakers don't have that many on Criterion. I actually thought Scorsese had more on Criterion than he actually does. But one I was happy to see, and I bought it immediately, is the Scorsese Shorts. I had this on VHS. These are his early funny ones. So you've got Italian American, which is wonderful, with his parents, who of course appeared in a few of his films from 1974. It's 49 minutes long. American Boy, which was the one that wasn't on the VHS, which is 55 minutes from 1978, which is a very strange film about a strange character who appears pretty much as himself in Taxi Driver as the gun salesman. The Big Shave from 1967, which is 5 minutes, but just pure cinema. It's Not Just You, Murray, from 1964, for 16 minutes, and What's a Nice Girl Like You Doing in a Place Like This from 1963, which is 10 minutes. You do get a new conversation with Scorsese and film critic Farron Smith in the Hemi, and a new discussion among filmmakers Ari Aster and the Safdie brothers. You can take from that whatever you like. And there's a public radio interview from 1970 with Scorsese, and of course it's a booklet. So I was very happy to get that in the collection, to get them all together, because as I said, I've had them for, I think I had them in DVD as well as VHS, and that's Spine Number 1030 in the Criterion. Then another film that I was so happy that Criterion finally released it. I did have a Spanish Blu-ray of it, but it took so long to actually get it to Blu-ray, let alone 4K, but they released a 4K of it, and it's After Hours, which again, at the time it was in that transitional period for Scorsese where he wasn't that well, and at the time it was kind of dismissed. It looked like a TV film, but again, now taking in his whole body of work, it's probably his fourth or fifth best film. Griffin Dunne in a career performance. This is the 4K and Blu-ray. Just a wonderful cast, and again, lots of women actually getting decent fun roles. We've got Rosanna Arquette, Verna Bloom, Linda Fiorentino before she was famous, Terry Garr, who sadly we lost last year, John Hurd, Catherine O'Hara, who's always fantastic. Again, shot by Michael Bauhaus, who shot Raging Bull as well. Yeah, just it gets better every time I watch it, and it sums up modern life. Now, as I say, this one should get a 4K. I don't know why they're dragging their heels on it. At the time, again, being a Scorsese nut and being a young man, I was shocked when this was announced that he was making it, but it turns out it's his best film. For me, it's my favourite film, and it's his best film by a country mile, which, as we know, is a mile and a half. Age of Innocence, 1993. Again, just the shock. But he made Taxi Driver and Goodfellas, and now he's making a costume drama. What's going on? But it's immaculate. This is another love letter to Michael Powell, Daniel Day-Lewis, Michelle Pfeiffer. Again, I've never been a huge Michelle Pfeiffer fan until I saw this. She's just absolutely wonderful in it. Absolutely beautiful film about not getting what you want, which, let's be honest, is the lesson of life. Yeah, really should get a 4K. I don't know quite what's going on with that. Spine number 913, but again, maybe people want all of these other films in 4K first. Speaking of which, probably the breakthrough film, Mean Streets, which is 4K in Criterion, but this is the 4K second sight, obscene big box version. Again, with a big thick book that you could probably murder somebody with. Full of wonderful images and writings. Again, this is a film that I used to love, but I don't think it's aged that well. Has some fun techniques in it. Also, this is probably De Niro's breakout, even though he had been good in earlier stuff for other directors. Yeah, again, one of his quote-unquote classics that I don't think has stood the test of time as much. And then again, this was a shock. I think after Goodfellas, I might be wrong, but the remake of Cape Fear, I remember thinking, oh, he's gone mainstream. He's sold out, he's gone mainstream. And then, of course, you get Age of Innocence after that. You know, I had to spend about 6 months in the hospital from the shock. Again, it's fun, but nowhere near as good as the original. De Niro chewing scenery quite impressively. And they get Robert Mitchum and Gregory Peck back playing little roles. Yeah, was this a sign of what was to come? And then another film that I used to hold in really high regard, it would always be in my favourite 100, but it's fallen quite a long way. Goodfellas, I know that's sacrilege in film bro land. Again, for me, De Niro's the best thing in it. Joe Pesci, yes, he has the wonderful scene, but it's almost a caricature every time you watch it now. Yeah, but again, still a very good film. I'd still give it 4 stars, but certainly not how I used to think of it. Is this the only Scorsese film that I've seen in the cinema? Quite possibly. Casino. Again, the more times I watch it, it kind of goes down a little bit. Again, Joe Pesci basically just doing a impression of his character from Goodfellas. Again, De Niro's the best thing in it. You could argue this is De Niro's last great performance. Again, he just is kind of stoic, or stoic even, while everybody else is chewing scenery around him. Probably my second favourite Scorsese, even though I'm probably contradicting myself, The King of Comedy, with Jerry Lewis in a career best performance, pretty much playing himself, and Robert De Niro. Again, this was a low period. Rumour is De Niro directed quite a lot of it, because Scorsese was off his head. Just wonderful. It's the fact that, you know, Rupert Pupkin is desperate to give his monologue on Jerry Lewis's show, and you think, oh, this is going to be offensive, or this is going to be, you know, full of swearing or whatever, and then you hear it and it's just as bland and mediocre as every other comedian you see on TV chat shows, which makes it even more genius. Kind of comedy, absolutely wonderful. Then a surprise, one of his best later works, but probably one of his least seen, Kundun. Again, this kind of is more about sight and sound rather than let's have this driving narrative. Again, this could be seen as a love letter to Michael Powell as well. Absolutely beautiful. A 4K of this would be absolutely gorgeous, but I'm guessing we'll never see a 4K of Kundun because it's just not popular. And then an example of when it does have a good writer. Last Temptation of Christ. Again, not a film I watch very often. This has a Blu-ray and a DVD. Remember those kind of places. Yeah, wonderful performance by Willem Dafoe before he was hugely famous. Controversial when it came out. You don't really hear people talking about it much anymore. As far as being controversial, I think Mel Gibson made one that's slightly more controversial. Written by Paul Schrader, and you could argue that's when Scorsese does his best stuff. That's The Last Temptation of Christ with a great ending, by accident, but still a great ending. Now, I think this is one of his classics that has stood the test of time and is still a 5-star film for me, and that's Taxi Driver. Of course, it's not relevant in any way, shape or form now. We've solved all the issues that Taxi Driver talks about. Yeah, as I said, things like Raging Bull, Mean Streets, Goodfellas, I don't think have stood the test of time that well. I think Taxi Driver has. Again, written by Schrader, which always helps. And finally, arguably his best film of the last 25 years, Hugo. It's for kids. It's actually the Arrow Region A. There is a 4K of it, but I just got the Blu-ray. I mean, I don't love it that much. But it does have 2 Blu-rays. The bonus material is fantastic. Again, this is Scorsese's love letter to cinema, because we know he does absolutely adore cinema. And this is his love letter to it, to Georges Méliès. Just a beautiful little film. Yeah, it's for kids, but I'm sure kids wouldn't really get that much out of it. It's really for adults who remember what they were like as kids and the magic of cinema. So that's Hugo. So that's my Scorsese collection. A little bit smaller than most people's Scorsese collections, I'm guessing. Obviously, I don't have a copy of The Departed. You'll have to go over to the Vulgarian Troglodytes channel or SGS to see a copy of The Departed, because I cannot stand The Departed. I think it's one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. Certainly one of the worst films by a director who should know what he's doing. Forget the fact that it's an awful remake of Infernal Affairs. It's just so badly executed, one of the worst scripts, the worst dialogue, worst performances, but for some reason it's universally liked. I mean, as I've said before, don't want to turn this into a Departed rant, but well, anyway. There's some films that I don't like, but I can see why people like them. But it's a complete mystery. It's a riddle of the Sphinx to me, how people think The Departed is like a 5-star film. It's baffling. The performances are terrible. Jack Nicholson's performance is ludicrous. Yeah, Alec Baldwin's ludicrous. Martin Sheen has a terrible Boston accent, and he's from Boston. It just makes no sense. Mark Wahlberg's sergeant, I think he's a sergeant, whose job it seems to be just to come in and swear at people and then leave, is just, and people actually think he should have got an award for that. It's baffling. I do not understand. You know, I've talked about Silence of the Lambs and how it's gloriously inferior to Manhunter, but it's still a good film, and I get why people might think it's like a 5-star film. I don't, but I understand why. But The Departed is a complete mystery. It's a complete mystery to me. It's awful on every level of filmmaking. Every level, it's just terrible. And it's baffling why people actually think it's good. Not just good, but really good. I suppose the other one's Shutter Island. I have seen Shutter Island. Again, it's okay. Mark Ruffalo, of course, is really good. So underrated if you forget all his Marvel stuff. And Max von Sydow's in it. What else? There's probably one that I'm missing of his last 25 years that I actually have seen, but I don't think so. As I say, I've still to see Wolf of Wall Street, but to be honest, 3 hours does seem a bit much. I've still to get through The Irishman, as I said. Again, that seems a bit much. Who knows? I mean, our tastes change. I still love the guy, but as a filmmaker, as I've been exposed to so many great filmmakers, he has slipped down the rankings in the last 25 years, but he's still a very good filmmaker. I mean, when it's all said and done, he'll still be in the top 100 greatest filmmakers of all time, probably, but certainly not in the top 10 for me anymore. And on that bombshell, thanks very much for watching. Please let me know what Scorsese films are in your collection, and what's your favourite Scorsese film, and am I talking complete nonsense and all of his older films stand up brilliantly still today? So this is Saoirse Ronan from Saoirse Ronan Films saying farewell and apologies for fans of The Departed, but really, what are you thinking?